Good afternoon, it's Pastor Marty from the Afternoon Drive. Well, the president got a much-needed court victory. At the beginning of the year, President Trump declared a national emergency with what's happening at the border. Immediately, the Dems went into their just absolute, what are you talking about? What crisis? This is a manufactured crisis. Trump then, using military funds, because he declared an emergency, began construction of more border wall, which immediately the Democrats found a sympathetic judge and a halt was immediately issued for the stoppage of the president using military funding for construction of a border wall. Well, within the past 24 hours, another judge has stepped in and said that the Congress does not have constitutional precedent when it comes to areas where the president declares a national emergency and uses other funds to take care of what he deems to be a national emergency. So now the restriction has been lifted and the president may continue on with his border wall. And anybody that takes a look at what's happening at our southern border and does not see it for the crisis that it is, does not see it for the problem that it is either in denial, is delusional, or is just outright, you're a liar. You're just completely wanting to be ignorant of what's happening because your political gain is to do something that would be hurtful and harmful, you think, in the short term to the president, but in long term, it's hurtful and it's harmful to the American people. Border security. And I know that there are those within the Republican Party, some so-called conservatives and even fake conservatives who have made money off of conservative dollars. That would be Ann Bipolar Coulter, who has been blasting the president since day one that he took the oath of office, that he hasn't built the wall. He's reneged on his promise. He hasn't built the wall. Now, I don't have any insider baseball on this. I've never directly talked to President Trump. But I look over the situation, and I think that when he first took office, I think he made two assumptions. The first assumption, I think he thought once he was sworn in and began his presidency, that the Russian collusion narrative and even just the media and the Democrats just pouncing on everything all the time would eventually just kind of back off. That there would be played full adversarial, but they would back off, and that if he got the economy moving, if he could turn things around with the economy, if he could put people back to work, if he could see wages rise and unemployment numbers plummet, that the media would look at that, his Democratic opposition would look at that and say, okay, we can work with him on domestic issues. We can work with him in these areas. But they didn't do that. They doubled and tripled down on the Russian narrative. And from the first week he took office, they talked about impeach 45, impeach 45. And even now that the Russian witch hunt investigation is over, they're still talking about impeach 45, impeach 45. And the president never had the support of the rhinos to do anything with the wall. Had the rhinos gotten on board with the Trump agenda right in the very beginning, but they were standoffish. They really believed there was something to this Russian collusion thing. And because they were standoffish and they withheld their support and they withheld getting on board the Trump train with the full agenda, that by the time many of them did begin to get on board, it was too late for the 2018 election cycle. And so that the Democrats took over the Congress, the House of Representatives. Now, of course, all of his agenda gets stalled. And I think Trump was gambling on the fact that if he could get the economy rolling, that would get Democrats working with him. It would get the rhinos on board. They would win the 2018 midterms, and then he could focus on getting the border wall. That didn't happen. And of course, now the Dems are just hell-bent and exploiting this crisis at the border because they think that politically they can beat Trump on this issue. They want to show pictures of children in cages even though those pictures have been proven to date back to the Obama administration. And it was the Obama administration that put these guidelines and rules in of separating children immediately at the border. And there is a part of it that I actually do understand. How do we know that this guy Javier that's coming in with these 3 kids, how do we know that these 3 kids are actually his? How do we know that he's not some type of sex trafficker? That he's a coyote who stole these kids away from a mother somewhere along the trail and using these kids as cover to get himself into our country. So I understand why there has to be a separation. And as far as seeing them in cages, it's terrible. We can't handle this onslaught of people at the border. This is why Trump initially wanted to have a timeout. Let's close the border. Let's get our ducks in a row. Let's revamp our immigration system. Let's put some facilities in place that are able to handle the flow and the number of people that are coming in. Then we can get on with this. But of course, no. The Democrats aren't having any part of that. The rhinos wouldn't have any part of that. And we've been through all the reasons before why. And again, the president gambled that he would get good press and some credit for the great economy. And he didn't get it. And I think that if there's anything that has shocked the president, I do think it's that. I really think that he thought that they would really get on board once the economy got rolling. And the fact that they didn't. And there's been almost a media blackout of talking about anything positive with regard to Trump, his policies, and the economy. Well, of course, that means now that he is fighting it alone, even on the border wall. So this victory for him, kudos to this judge, and another thumbs up to the president as he makes his British tour, and he's trying to convince the British PM, look, ditch Brexit, that's what your people voted for anyway, ditch Brexit, and we'll give you 3 times the amount of trade that you've ever had before. Trump now, with the ongoing tariff war with China, opening up the British market for American-made goods. So Trump, the negotiator-in-chief, the art of the deal, he's at work. But of course, you've got the British protesters that are all ramped up by the socialist liberal slob that calls himself the mayor of London. And you have to love the fact that Trump not only tweeted out that he was a stone-cold loser, but in a joint press conference with the prime minister standing there, he again put the beat down on the mayor of London. And you just have to love that he's classic Trump. He's not going to be dissuaded. He's not going to be detoured. He's not going to be intimidated into being anything that he's not. He is President Trump. He wants what's best for America. He is willing to work with the British, and we could have some really good trade going on back and forth. They got to ditch Brexit, and he's going to tell the London mayor exactly what he thinks of him. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe and smack the bell for my next rant.